Homelander is not a villain who just happens to be tragic. He's a villain because he is, and season 5 is about to show us exactly how far that actually goes. And the first thing I want to talk about is his childhood, because Homelander wasn't raised in a normal family or even with a single parent who cared about him. He was raised in a cold lab and tortured by scientists mentally and physically, and they literally broke his mind so they could control him. And we see this throughout the entire show, his need for validation, the feeling that he needs to be loved by everyone or he needs to belong. And this need for validation and approval leads him to do some really insane things, like the plane incident, for example, in season 1. We've all seen it before, and he could have absolutely at least saved some of these people, but instead of even trying to help, he chooses just to let them all die so none of them can expose him for letting the rest die and not trying to save the entire plane and all this other thing. It's very complex, and this was just in the first season where we as viewers were still under the impression that he was some sort of hero, and we kind of really started to see his mask come off. But this is nowhere near the worst of it, because there's another moment where we see him later on show up to a woman contemplating jumping off of a building, and somehow he convinces her just by talking to her and telling her to do it to make her not want to, until inevitably she realizes he's serious and he makes her jump. And this, among many other things, is just a small showing of how evil he actually is. Oh yeah, and it doesn't just stop with normal people, because he even torments other soups like the Deep when he forced them to eat his squid friend Timothy, which was insanely disturbing, by the way. Like, keep in mind the Deep can talk to these animals just like we talk to each other, so he's literally eating him alive, and he can hear Timothy's screams of terror. Like, it's just insane. No sympathy for the Deep, because that guy is fucked beyond all belief, but the fact that Homelander forced him through that just shows that he has no regard for anyone. And on top of all of those things, people still just let him be, which, I mean, I wouldn't mess with him either, because look at the one person who did. Like, he ended up getting killed in front of thousands of people because he threw a can at Ryan, which you'd think killing this innocent person would get people to hate him, but no, it makes a lot of people actually love him even more. And all of these things aren't even scratching the surface of what he's done, and it only makes him realize nobody can stop him. So he goes back to the lab that he was raised in as a kid, and all of the same people are still working there, which is kind of crazy since Homelander's like 40 or something, but he wastes no time bringing up all of the things they did to him when he was younger. And you know what? This lab moment may be the singular moment I actually ever will agree with Homelander, because even though Homelander is the ultimate evil, these people were monsters and they did horrible things to this kid just because they were scared of the power he had. It's just terrible. And Homelander wastes no time, because he takes all of them out in the same way they used to experiment on him. Like, he literally sticks one guy in the oven that they used to quote unquote test his durability in, and then he plays another twisted game that this scientist used to play with him, but if the scientist loses, he dies. And even though Homelander dealt with his childhood trauma in this lab after killing all these people, he doesn't realize how he's pushing all of his trauma onto us. But there's one huge difference between Ryan and Homelander's upbringings, and it's that Ryan was, for the most part of his life, raised with a loving mom and a small sense of normal. Even though it was still sanctioned by the government and in hiding, he still had that little bit of sense of normal, and his mom instilled morals into him. So this leads me to believe if you took Homelander from birth all the way through to adulthood and raised him in a loving, caring family outside of all of Vought's influence, he just might have been the greatest hero to ever exist. But that's the tragedy of Homelander. He's what I would call Vought's greatest mistake. Oh, and really quick, I want to mention this, because him being the biggest mistake does not stop him at all, and really it doesn't excuse anything he's done. Still made all of the wrong choices at every single turn, and he still chooses to be in love with power, and he still chooses selfishness, and he still chooses to be evil every single chance he gets. So yes, Homelander is a tragic character, but not in the sense of, oh, poor Homelander, more in the sense of, this is what happens when a kid is put through unimaginable pain. And I know this is a short one, but if you enjoyed this video, drop a comment down below and let me know, do you think Homelander will die in season 5? And season 5 part 1 for The Boys will come out in about 2 weeks. But yeah, stick around, we talk about stuff like this all the time, and as always, stay curious and keep the conversation going.